So why don't we call the meeting to order, 6:32 p.m. And the first item of business, the April 15th dissertation minutes that was sent around. And may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, there being none, we have to take a roll call vote. Jim?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And myself, yes. And we still do not have Neil, who has joined us. So that would be 6-0, okay?
Jay, forgive me while I eat my dinner. I'll try to be as noiseless as possible.
I thought I heard some chomping, Bill. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. It's not good for you. You get indigestion. Okay.
Not from this meeting, I hope.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on, I have circulated to you materials that Michael Canales has sent to me. Basically, two transfers. One is for the Larrawag Bridge, and basically, Michael, do you want to take us through why we're transferring monies that were unexpended from highway and heavy equipment motor operator, equipment operator, and also in insurance to support this project, please?
Yes. So April 20th, we opened the bids on the Larrawag Bridge. We ended up with 3 bidders. The low bidder on the project is Maximilian. One thing that we did do when we went out, we had a very aggressive schedule of substantial completion date of October 31st, which right away, we already heard from a couple companies, they did not bid because of the aggressive time schedule that we had. Led to 3 of the larger companies bidding on the project. And just the fact of having to stop the project with one contractor and then start with another contractor has caused the project to cost more than what it was originally out at. This will allow us to contract with Maximilian. With a vote tonight, we can contract with them and get this project moving and look to hit that substantial completion date of October 31st. So that was the intent. That's why I think the cost has been driven up a little bit, is the aggressive schedule that we proposed. And I think it's in the best interest of the town that we move ahead with this project.
2 items, Michael. Number 1, tell us about the May 1st date, if you will.
Yes, so we checked with our auditors. As of May 1st, you can transfer money between accounts that you anticipate are unexpended. This was under the municipal relief bill a number of years ago. So this will be dated for May 1st, but with a vote by the selectmen and the finance committee saying that we can transfer the money May 1st allows Ray as the accountant to sign off that funds have been appropriated for this project, allowing us to legally contract with it. So we did check. So we'll be dated for May 1st, but we will technically tomorrow be engaging Maximilian if we have a positive vote tonight. And we did check with the auditors, and everybody is comfortable with this happening this way.
And basically the select board has approved this at their last Thursday meeting.
At their last Thursday meeting, yes.
Okay. And out of full disclosure also, well, we'll talk about the article, you know, when we go, we'll come further down, okay?
Jay, can I ask a question?
Please.
The form that was sent around, Mike, shows the account numbers from which funds will be drawn.
Yes.
But I'm sorry, I don't recognize those account numbers. I don't recognize any account numbers.
Yes.
Would it be appropriate in future to not only provide account numbers, but account names?
Sure. I will make sure in the future that we always include. The accounts that we are taking it from is the highway superintendent position, which has excess funds remaining in it and will be available throughout the rest of the year. There's additional funds in the heavy equipment operator line that we will not need to close out the end of the year, and additional funds in the insurance line.
Yeah.
So
I heard you say that earlier, and it all sounds fine. I just thought, for good order's sake, in the future, it would be nice to identify those funds by name.
noted, and we will include the names from now on.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion
I have a
to
question.
approve, please?
I have a question also.
Yes.
But let's get the motion and the second on the table.
I'll move the approval of this transfer.
Second,
Okay. Who seconded it, Bill?
I did.
You did, Steve.
Now I can
Okay.
ask my question.
Go ahead.
Michael, could you just take us through the original cost of the first contract? I just want to understand, what this is the $173,000, or is it $175,000 increase? I'm sorry.
It's 173,000 and change, and Ray put the entire move at 175.
Okay.
Just to clean it up.
Sure.
So the original project, and let me open up my notes on this. So the original project, if I remember right, was just over $2 million. We had completed quite a bit of work to the demolition, and they had begun the work by Roach Construction when we noticed the deficiency in the procurement. And of course, 1.5 million of this is covered by funds from other sources, a MassWorks grant of $1 million and a $500,000 small bridge repair grant. So those monies have been secured and will continue to move forward. Some of those were expended already. So in the run-up engineering costs and some of the demolition costs.
Mm-hmm.
So then when we went out to bid, we knew that we had 1.2, I'm going just rounding things off, 1.2, and it came in at 1.35. So there's also some engineering costs and others that Ray was already tracking in order to, so he's already identified costs that have already been included. So he needed to know that he had enough money appropriated in order to move us forward. So that's where we got to the 1.73 and change, and we did the reserve transfer for 175,000. It gets us the ability to contract this and get this project moving.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I just wanted to,
It's an account transfer specifically, right?
I just wasn't sure, Mike, what the amount of the contract was with the first contractor. I thought that it was in excess of 2 million. That it was a 2 point. I think it was close to 2.2. I'm trying to call it up right now. Actually, I thought it was higher than that, but that's okay.
It might have been that one. I'm more familiar with what we've done to date than what was done before.
That's okay. I think that given the change in contractors and the aggressive timetable here, and also probably no doubt an increase in construction costs just in this very short period of time, particularly supplies, materials and supplies, that although $175,000 is $175,000, it's not unreasonable in order to achieve the reconstruction of this bridge. So
I have a question when Steve's
Go ahead, Jim.
I'm done. Thank you, Jim.
Michael, you mentioned one of the grants, there were two grants, one $500,000 small bridge grant. Is that grant in addition to the one we got for, what was it, the Averick Road Bridge?
Right. We had three grants altogether, totaling $2 million for $500,000 for the Averick Road Bridge, one grant for $500,000 for this one, and $1 million for this one.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other?
I have one question.
Go ahead, Diane.
Is there any monies that are owed to Roach? Is it Roach, you said, the former contractor, or is that over and done with?
We have fully settled with Roach and fully cleared that. So there is no additional funds owed to the past contractor.
Okay.
Any other comments, anybody? There being none, we have a first and a second. We will take a roll call vote. Jim?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Neil still has not joined us. Diane?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Okay. Moving on, if we can, we have monies for the that have been requested by transfer for the rest of the river project to which we're committed. Michael, you want to take us through that?
Yeah, our billing this year has come in for legal fees and the rest. We are $7,000 short. Ray identified that, and he's put in the request for the reserve account transfer. That'll take care of us for the remainder of this year.
I'll move the approval.
I'll second it. Any comments? There being none, we'll take a roll call vote. Jim?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. That's the next item on our agenda. Next, we will move into the discussion of the outstanding proposed capital and warrant article requests. Okay, and just a little. We went through the minutes. Clearly delineate all of the warrants and capital items that we approved on April 15th. There were several that were not approved. The first is the part-time planner. Michael, do you want to tell us what's going to happen with that?
So the select board and the planning board are meeting Tuesday. From the Tuesday meeting, we will have a determination of what is happening with this article. My anticipation is to have the selectmen on all the remaining articles vote on May 13th, and then have these ready for the finance committee to make their vote to support or not support. And then we will close out all the financial items.
Any questions? Okay. The next item that was not addressed, the next warrant, the intersection.
You want to vote on this individually, Jay?
No, we don't have to vote on this because it hasn't been approved by the select board.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
We're just giving an update on this. The next one is the intersection. Michael, what's happened with that?
So the select board has decided that they don't have time to make a proper presentation for this town meeting. So they actually have withdrawn that one and it will not be placed on the warrant for this meeting.
Okay. Any comments on that?
That's good news.
I agree.
I agree.
I'll tell you that the paint job on that intersection, that strange long oval, yellow oval, is downright dangerous. I know it wasn't meant to be, but if you're coming south on Prospect Hill Road into that intersection and you want to turn left onto Main Street, you have to go straight to avoid that oval for about 30 feet. And the cars turning left coming up from Great Barrington at that intersection think you're going straight. And in fact, you're turning. And it's because of that damned oval, which may have been a good idea in somebody's mind, but doesn't work very well, I have to say.
Bill, I will exert great diplomacy, no comment, okay?
Yeah, I'm
That's
sure,
all I have to say, all right?
I'm sure we all have comments, and that was mine. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll do it at a happy hour somewhere.
Well, I agree with Bill's comments.
All right, next item. We did not address this last week. Michael, talk to us about the Park Street pump station. What's being contemplated there?
So the Park Street pump station is $720,000. We're proposing a borrowing. This borrowing would be 2 years of interest payments only, and then 18 years of principal payment. It would be paid out of the sewer reserve. So it would bump up the sewer reserve the next 2 years from 90 up to 100, roughly about 10,000 more. And then we would take on, then the sewer reserve would take on the principal payments, which will be around 50,000 going for the next 18 years. So that is what we're proposing to do. It does replace an issue. We even just the other day had the pump station back up on us. It's getting harder to get parts for that pump station because it is fairly old. We are looking at a couple plans which could drive down the cost, but the way we're going to be wording the article is this will allow us to do up to the highest cost item if approved by the Sewer and Water Commission, but it could come down to about 670,000 if we go with one of the other options that we have. But we would only be borrowing what was needed once we determine the action that we'll take, and we'll note that in the article that's written.
And that will come up on the 13th of May to the Select Board, correct?
Yes, that is correct. It's already passed the Water and Sewer Commission, and then the Select Board, and then to this board.
My recollection, Jay, is that the debt service payments on this new indebtedness will not increase our bond indebtedness. That is the annual indebtedness for principal and interest, except in that first 2 years where the interest payments go up by $10,000 because the other sewer project is coming off.
Correct.
Yes, in fiscal year 2025.
25. Yeah, that's correct. I just wanted to be clear on the record.
That's correct.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments on that? At our last
sorry, Jay, just before we go off that subject, having heard the mention of the word debt, when and how do we consider the feasibility of refinancing any or all of our debt? Who does that? How does it start?
Well, it'll actually start with myself and the treasurer. We will contact our financial advisors at Unibank and look at some of our options as far as debt that's coming off. Right now, we got a lot of debt falling off in the next 5 years. And whether or not at the tail end here, whether there is savings to refinance at this point, we're not quite sure. But It should become a standard practice that every so many years we take a look at. Obviously, if interest rates are shooting up, you don't. But if interest rates are coming down, every so many years, we should be looking at and seeing if it's even an option and what the savings would be long term.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay. The next item that came up at our last Finance Committee meeting was the Pine Woods driveway, $75,000 to replace the driveway. And we had, I believe the Select Board had approved that CPC request. And yet the Finance Committee asked for more information as to the role of Construct, whether or not they were involved in supporting this project. And we're still awaiting that information. Is that correct, Michael?
Well, I did get some of the information. I still trying to get all the different, any information that was sent to the CPC committee, but we did it. The entire project is slightly over $200,000, and the town would be supporting 75,000 of it. So the remaining funds would be coming from the owner.
And who is the owner?
Construct.
Okay.
Yep. They might be going after. They might be going after other grants for low. How they're going to fund the remaining portion, not 100%, but obviously the CPC funds would be set aside for when they move forward with it, because we have had other projects through CPC that haven't fully gone through and done. I know there's one for like 38,000 for stone bridges that's still sitting there. And I know the CPC committee, and Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, because you're on it, talked about clawing back some of these projects if they don't move forward. So this would be a project we would support by $75,000. We would have them, they would have to come up with the remaining funds, however they're going to come up with it. And then the funds would be available for them to use. If they didn't end up moving forward with the project, the CPC committee can look at if nothing's done over the next couple of years of clawing back that money and reallocate it to our other projects.
I would like to, base on Michael's explanation, ask for a motion to approve this request.
I'd like to make a comment, if you could, before that. I think any motion should include a firm commitment from Construct to get this job done sooner rather than later. Anybody that drives in there can realize how dangerous that road is. And so I'll make the motion that, wait a minute, has it been approved by the select board?
Yes, it has.
All right, and then I'll make the motion that we approve this subject to Construct submitting their firm agreement that they will fund the rest of it and get this project done ASAP.
May I comment on the motion? Well,
I would make a second to Jim's motion.
All right. May I make a comment?
Actually, did you make a motion, Jim?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. I think the motion is that kind of conditional approval is going to be difficult for town meeting to deal with. I understand the point, Jim, and I'm fully in agreement with it. But I think that kind of conditional approval leaves our approval kind of open-ended. And I'm not sure that that works for the purpose of an approval or disapproval vote at the town meeting.
Okay, given that.
Well, I think it would be helpful if town council could look at the motion as we have presented it and at least get her view as to whether or not the motion in that form is problematic at all.
Let me add a point. We could edit the motion to say we would approve it with consideration of Construct's timetable and funding the remaining balance.
I do agree with Steve that I think trying to word something like that for town meeting is awkward. The actual process, if you were to approve the 75,000, it wouldn't be released to them. It's still going to be under control of the town. It wouldn't be released until that project actually moves forward. So there's been other projects approved that haven't moved forward, and then the funding remains in that bucket. And it would remain in that bucket for affordable housing. And then if later in a year or two they didn't do it, the CPC committee has the ability to request that money be pulled back in and then reallocated toward other projects. So there is Michael, a time frame if the committee.
I understand that time frame, but the point I'm trying to make is that needs to be done as soon as possible. The fact that we're going to approve 75,000 and it's going to be available to them gives them no commitment to actually get the job done. And that's something that we as a town finance committee and everyone else should be concerned. Anyone going in and making a little drive around that circle will understand why I'm trying to get this done quickly.
Jim, as I said, no one's disagreeing with the intent of the qualifier on your motion. But I think it does cause problems for a town meeting vote. I think the condition is more appropriately should have been placed by the CPC on the grant of the $75,000. That's where this begins. It's really not the finance committee's position to be doing this. It's the CPC as the funder.
I
That's my
think,
view.
Jim, would you consider withdrawing your motion?
Yeah, after I make this comment. Guys, I understand that's a motion that we're going to withdraw. Somehow we have to convey, whether it's to the Community Preservation Committee, whether it's to Construct, whatever else it is, this has been neglected for far too long. And I would just make maybe the recommendation that we're concerned about, let's get this done. So I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, can I?
Are you going to withdraw?
Jay?
Go ahead,
Can
Bill.
I say something? The problem, in addition to the concerns that have already been expressed by Steve and Mike, is Construct is a not-for-profit. This is not the only project, I assume, that they have on their drawing boards. I'm guessing that they do not have funding lined up for the balance of this project. They're going to try to fundraise, and fundraising by not-for-profits, sometimes it works, and sometimes it takes a lot longer than anybody anticipates. So I don't think we can even hold them fairly to some timetable of our own choosing. I just think that the relationship is such that Construct needs to pay attention to its priorities. I don't know whether this one is at the top of the priority list or 5 items down, and if so, how they're going to raise the money, who they're going to raise it from, how long is it going to take? There are those questions as well.
So the easy one here is to have the CPC amend the grant to provide that, if not spent within 2 years, the grant is terminated. It would have been simpler to do that.
Can we go back and get them to do that?
No, because this has been approved by the select board, and Michael has explained to you that the CPC is clawing back money on projects that don't move forward. So I think this would be something that perhaps could be done on future projects. But I think by doing that now would hold this project up.
Well, Jay,
So as I understand it, the bottom line now is if we approve this 75,000, which we're going to do, it's going to go into a fund and it's going to sit there. And that road's going to continue to deteriorate until Construct finally accepts the responsibility they have as being the landlord of that property and get that road fixed. It's frustrating to me as a town resident, not necessarily a member of the finance committee, but I just think it's terrible the way those residents are being treated, having to put up with that for this long. It's wrong.
Michael, can we convey these concerns to the select board from a management perspective for them to run herd on this project?
Well, we can. Yes, we can, but it does go back to actually the CPC as the committee that starts this. And the biggest thing I could say is that they need to be following up with them, not only for this, but all the projects. That's why they're talking, like I said, Jay, you were on the committee about clawing back projects that have just sat there and haven't moved forward, to put some pressure on groups to either use the money as it was allocated for or return it to be appropriated for another use. So the group that actually this should be addressed to would be the CPC committee.
Can we make a motion to approve this project?
I will move that we approve this expenditure.
Second?
I'm sorry, what, and then what happens? I mean, we approve the project and what happens?
Michael discusses with the select board from a management perspective that CPC managed the project. I mean, that's where it's got to come from, the select board to CPC.
Well, the money, first of all, hasn't been the money hasn't been turned over to the owner of this project. And it would be very simple for CPC as the funder of it to say, in making this grant, which they can't do until they have our approval and the town meeting approval, to say that if not spent for this purpose within 2 years, I'm just picking a time period, that this grant shall be withdrawn. They can communicate that directly to the owner of the property. And I think that will satisfy all of us. And it's the kind of condition that the CPC ought to be considering in the making of all of their grants, that if not used within a specified period of time, that the money gets withdrawn, clawed back, whatever term you want to use. But make that clear when the grant itself is made. It's not too late to do this because the grant can't be made until town meeting.
So your
The only
motion,
comment I, go ahead, Bill.
motion to approve the 75,000 is a simple, straightforward one. And
Yeah.
But we can convey the sense of the committee that the CPC should regard it in line with your comments. That we should take into account the comments that will be a record of this meeting.
Yes, that's what I'm suggesting, both as to this grant bill as well as to any other that they make in the future.
Yeah, and if it's not to pick nits, but fully spent within 2 years, partially spent.
I would leave it to them to have the discretion that within 2 years it's spent, unless the grantor requests an extension.
Correct.
And then they would have to take up the extension vote.
Okay.
We have Steve Schatz has made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? There being none. Jim?
Reluctantly, yes.
Pam?
yes,
Diane?
I'll go along with that. Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Myself, yes. And I guess Neil still has not joined us. So that's approval.
May I just interject one comment?
Sure.
Jim, I appreciate the fact that you brought this up because it's an issue that I think has been of concern to members of this committee as well as to others. And if this leads to a process by which these grants are go back to the CPC fund, if not used on some scheduled basis, then this discussion will have gone a long way towards to creating that construct. Pardon the use.
Well,
of, pardon the use of the word.
I would simply add to your comment that it seems to me that the CPC, when they're receiving that grant, I believe they're supposed to have the formal presentation from whomever is making the request as to a timetable, I think, for them to do the matching funds or whatever their share of what's going to happen. Yeah. And if that's not being done, it should be done because, guys, those residents can't wait for 2 more years for that road. That's the bottom line.
Let's close this site. Michael, how best do you propose communicating this approval to the CPC?
I will make sure that it's addressed to the chairman of the CPC.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, if I might, do we want to talk about any other proposed articles that could be raised for the ATM?
Yeah, so in regard to the Larry Wog Bridge, we moved the money in order for us to contract as the contract total is right now. It doesn't leave any funds available for if there are any change orders that were to arise during the next through October 31st. Typically, we would typically have a 10% retainage or contingency, not retainage, 10% contingency. So I'm going to be requesting that the select board on May 13th approve an article for free cash transfer to put 135,000 into an account for contingency for the Larry Wog Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And a question was asked, Michael, and there is no further action at this point, at our last meeting as to what would be the free cash and stabilization balances based on what's been proposed so far.
So what's been proposed so far would still leave us with a balance of 1.4 million in free cash. Once we add in the 135,000, because we had to take out the 100,000 that we were going to do to a housing rehab, but that doesn't fit within the allowed use by our council. So legal counsel said that was something we couldn't do. So withdrawing that 100,000, putting in its place 135 for the bridge repair line item. But I do think it's key. It's very important for us to have some funds available just in case we run into any change orders along the way.
Agreed. And what about the stabilization balance?
The stabilization balance, and this is the total of all of the money in the accounts, is $2,351,000. So we have plenty of money in stabilization. In the next year or two, I mentioned to Jay that there's going to be some big decisions we need to make on Averick Road Bridge 2. We'd probably be looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 500,000 if we can get the other 500 through a small bridge grant. We're going to have to replace a fire engine. We are going after a assistance to firefighters grant to see if we can get some, if not most of that covered. But if not, we're looking at roughly $500,000 for an additional fire truck. And, the Curtisville Bridge needs to be addressed. And then by 2025, we'll have to address the large truck for the DPW. And that truck's about a $220,000 to $230,000 truck. So we have a number of items that are coming up over the next couple of years. Quite a few of those would probably be, I would anticipate right now, all those would probably be free cash uses as a recommendation. The only reason, me and Jay talked about the trucks, the only reason I thought the smaller fleet of 4 trucks should be on our debt schedule is because those are a constant revolving expenditure, while the large truck is once every 12 to 15 years. The fire trucks are every 20 years. So those I look at as just using free cash, especially knowing where our stabilization and free cash accounts are at currently.
Let me just make sure I got it right, Michael. We're talking about future consideration of projects, not this coming fiscal year, for Averick Bridge, a fire engine, a large truck, Curtisville. Did I miss anything?
No, those are the biggest ones.
Right.
Jay, may I just say, I'd like to comment about the fire truck. At our last meeting, we had this discussion about the engine to replace engine number 2, which I think that we've all agreed is very important. That's our primary attack vehicle. But at the same time, and it's just an admonition, if you will, Michael, or should I say a warning, that when we finally have this discussion, I think it's very important that we have a discussion about our equipment needs overall as they relate to our ability to staff them. Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
And that is something I will be talking with the chief about that. And, I want to come up with a comprehensive beside just the small truck fleet that we now have. I want to start charting out where we're going to be on all of our major capital purchases, from front end loaders to other things, and giving approximate dates based on the standard useful life of those vehicles. Obviously, if we take care of them, we can extend those. But I think if we just base it on those, we can come up with a schedule. But yes, we also have to take into account the ability to staff those pieces of equipment.
And that would the corollary to that would be the end product would be a multi-year capital budget is what we're talking about. You know, the establishment. We started a number of years ago that, and it seems to have fallen by the wayside. And we compliment your efforts to rejuvenate that, Michael. Thank you. Okay.
Jay?
Yes, Bill.
Mike, you mentioned 2025, things coming between now and 2025. Isn't one of the other things that possibly could happen by 2025 is a new high school?
Yes. And we have to be very aware of that as far as taking on any other debt. That could be an area where if the school, say the school was to move forward, that you could be sliding the debt into there and not see a significant increase in the tax rate, because you could slide that debt into position to replace some of the debt that's falling off. So we have debt that's falling off in 2025, and then debt that's falling off in an additional large drop off in 2028, which would probably be closer to when full funding of a school would probably happen. If you look, you know, usually it's about 5 years out. So, and that could be something that we could request if it's pushing toward that 2028 date of doing interest only payments. I think I mentioned this in the city. We did that when a school called Brayton School's debt fell off and Colgrove was coming on. We had to do 2 years of interest only payments. And then that debt fell off and we fully took on the debt. Because you're going to see in 2027 and 2028, we're going to go from 1.2 all the way down to 776,000. So it would allow the town, especially in that time period, to take on additional debt if the school was to move forward without significantly impacting the tax rate, if impacting at all, because that's a substantial drop in your debt at that point.
I just like to make one comment, Bill, that you will recall that we did approve the $8,000 for the regional school district planning study for the consolidation of the 2 districts, Southern Berkshire and Berkshire Hills, and we await the results of where they're coming from based on the population, the enrollment population and so forth. So, you know, there's a lot of information that's got to come forward on this. So your point is well taken.
I think there's a lot of information still to come.
Yeah.
But whether we consolidate or not, the drumbeat to build a new high school will not end.
I don't disagree with that. Okay.
Just one further comment about all of this, about our ability to service debt in the future. Within a relatively short period of time, if we continue to fund OPEB at $50,000 a year, we will have funded the full liability for it within, I believe, 3 years hence.
Correct.
And so and I'm not suggesting that we just simply throw $50,000 into debt service payments without a good public purpose. But the fact is that we will finally have stopped, pardon me, making those payments.
Okay. Any other comments, Michael, on proposed warrants or capital items?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, thank you. And then obviously we'll wait to come back on these items after the 13th for our approval. Okay. Next, the operating budget. I think the one major change, and Michael, you can explain this, is what we have received from Lennox and Lee on our ambulance support. Michael, operating budget changes?
Yes, so we received our annual, our appropriation that we need for ambulance service, and it's actually down $9,000 from $278,000 to $268,871. So that came in slightly lower, which is a good thing. Overall, the entire budget, the budget is done and ready and will be presented for final approval also on the 13th meeting to the select board and then come back to you guys. The total budget is going up by 156. That's all categories, 156,544, with the town budget itself going down $61,098. Those are the final numbers for the budget. This gives us a projected tax rate of $9.95. And that's based on $50,000 in new growth. I'm hesitant to say that that's low, but the number so far, that's the number we'll go with for now. But that could also drive down the tax rate if the new growth comes in larger than that.
And the principal increase in the operating budget is education. Is that a correct statement, Michael?
Yes, education is going up a total of $217,652.
There is nothing to approve at this point until the 13th. Are there any questions or comments anybody has at this time? Yep. Did I hear somebody? No. There being none, we're in the process of scheduling the Baby Town meeting for Wednesday, May 26th at 6:30 p.m. Zoom, a virtual meeting. As we have done last year, we will talk about the capital and warrant articles, financial articles, and the operating budget. And Steve, refresh my memory. Did we talk about at a Baby Town meeting in the past non-financial articles? Have we ever discussed that? I don't believe so.
That's what it is. If they have no impact on appropriation, then they're not within the purview of this committee.
Michael, did you hear that?
Yeah, and as I said to you, Jay, I just wondered if somebody from either the select board or something after the presentation of the finance of appropriation articles, if somebody from the select board would want to come and present the other articles for people to sift through. But I think that's a determination of them. If it just ends up being you guys, it should just be around the appropriation articles.
And we'll talk more about that meeting. You know, it's a little premature at this point. Okay.
Jay, you froze at a moment when you were announcing the date of the Baby Town meeting. When is it?
Yes. May 26th.
At what time?
6:30. Okay.
Yep.
Anything else, Bill?
No.
Okay. And then also a piece of other business that I did discuss with Michael, following up on Erica's bank balances, looking at the accounts, defining our appropriations if appropriate. And Michael has indicated that would be a project that he will take on right after the town meeting. Is that a fair statement, Michael?
Yeah, the anticipation is me and Erica will dive deeper into that and bring something back to the finance committee as to what we looked at and where we should be going with those. In addition, I will be finalizing these spreadsheets and sending out final spreadsheets for you guys to review prior to the last time we get together to discuss these articles.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not have any other business. Michael, do you have anything else?
I have nothing else.
Are there any further comments or items, anything anybody would like to discuss?
I have one, Jay, that's totally outside the purview of this meeting, but I can't help but thank Jim for having led a parade at 20 miles an hour down my street, preventing.
You actually got a sign there too.
He was terrific.
Exactly.
It's amazing how fast those people come up behind you, Steve. It really is.
I know. Well,
Michael, they're talking about Larawag and North Church Street. It's a wonder nobody's been killed. Okay.
Anyway.
All right. I have no further business, and there being none, I would propose.
I'll move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.